those who don't know, the Free State Project is a movement of voluntary human action where we are trying to concentrate libertarians in the state of New Hampshire.
I think we've done more in the last decade than every other libertarian movement combined has accomplished in the last 5 decades.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, libertarians, natives, movers, and those on your way, welcome back to Live Free and Thrive, where you can hear about all the ways you can live free and thrive with Free State Live on the free state of New Hampshire. Don't mind me, it's been a long day and my words are getting jumbled. But first and foremost, it's time to welcome everyone back to the show. Joining back from the dark, though, everyone's favorite Queen Quill herself, Carla Garrick. How are you, Carla?
I am very well. I'm very excited to be back, so thanks for having me.
Recovering from the long election season?
Yeah. You know. It's always a beating. I still have the last of the stuff here for people who are anxiously awaiting the results. I did not win my race. We weren't really expecting me to, but it was pretty close. I lost by about 200 votes. So I will keep persevering. I believe I am running for president of New Hampshire. So my time will come.
Listen, I have pitched this idea for 2024. I've proven that I can put anybody on the ballot for a third party, and we can run the Independence Party and put Carla Garrick for president of New Hampshire. So I'm open for it.
I mean, I do think we're going to have to start getting a little more creative and a little more interesting and a little more just dynamic and try different approaches. I actually realized, to be honest, I was journaling after the elections, and I was like, what is it? And I was like, I think it's just my values and running for office aren't actually fully aligned. I hate the government. So to actually expend all this energy to go try and be part of it is maybe not the way to go. But we are lucky that we have awesome guests like tonight's.
Absolutely.
Are willing to actually run and win.
And do it. Yeah. So with all the stress of the election in the rear view, joining us tonight, one of our newly elected state reps and a newish mover to the Free State here in New Hampshire, we have Tom Mannion. Tom, thanks for coming on. How are you today?
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fantastic. Thank you guys so much.
So
I am very excited to speak to Tom because we tweet, and I think that's where I sort of started to connect with you.
Yeah, terminally on Twitter.
I know your name, but I'm not even sure if we met in person. We probably have, maybe at a New Movers, but
yeah, I was at Defend the Guard rally. I was just kind of like hanging out in the periphery. I was watching the speeches,
and of course I was late because I thought it started at noon when it started at 11. So. So I'm super excited. Why don't you tell folks just a little bit, like when you moved, sort of your coming to New Hampshire story.
Yep. So in 2020, we all experienced the lockdowns, and you guys experienced it a little differently than I did. I was down in Massachusetts at the time. Things started to get really annoying at my local housing association, which was the most petty thing ever. When they were told to close gyms in my state, the housing association board thought that meant the private gym at our private facility as well.
Wow.
So I argued with them, and they disagreed that 2 persons in a gym is too much, and they just kept it closed for like 9-10 months or something. And in the summer of 2020, you guys opened back up. Massachusetts was still locked down. I came up on a vacation to Center Harbor, and your hotels were open, your restaurants were open, your everything was open. And I told my girlfriend, I was like, I'm moving to New Hampshire. You can come with me, or you can stay here.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's how I got married too. I won a green card, and my boyfriend and I were like, oh, what are we doing? And I was like, look, I'm going to America. You can come.
That's an even bigger journey.
Did she come?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit easier because all we did, I was in Chelmsford.
Tragic story that ended very badly.
Right. She's always got my back. She's a great defender. So like, it wasn't a big sell. It was just kind of like I'm just letting you know we're moving, and it was nice and easy. We were down in Chelmsford, so like it was like a 5-minute, or 5-mile journey up to Pelham, where I'm at now. So not far. We didn't change too much.
That was what made my move so easy when I moved back in 2016 too was I was actually living on Cape Cod, but working in Chelmsford. So moving to Nashua, just convincing myself to actually do that was like, wow, my commute is getting an hour shorter.
Yeah. That's a real easy sell. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a
Honestly,
hair longer.
Anyone who's a libertarian who lives in Massachusetts, I mean, really, honestly, guys, it's like the coal home. Anyone who's watching this now, don't wait. You're going to end up here. You may as well start doing it now. The market is actually softening. So in some ways, this is a better time because we were talking about it before the show, but I'm really torn between this thing where it's like, the growth in totalitarianism is really good for what we're trying to achieve. And I believe that you where you expend your energy is kind of what manifests. And I was like, I want to be manifesting a totalitarian future, but also we want everyone to be coming. So it's a trade-off.
So for years I was following you guys on Twitter and like watching like the progress that was being made, and it was just, I was like, I knew this is going to happen someday, for I don't know, like 5 years I was watching and I was like, I'm going to move, but the next place I buy is going to be in New Hampshire. And then you get like complacent and it's like, well, I'm kind of comfortable where I'm at. I'm just saving a nest egg. Someday I'll buy a house. I don't know when. And then like it takes something like horrific, like the COVID tyranny of like Massachusetts to be like, if I don't move now, I have no principles. Like it makes no sense. Like for me to just tolerate this. I tried to fight it at the local board, tried to fight it at the town. At that point, it's just kind of like, if it's not going to succeed here, I'm not like, who the hell am I going to talk to? Like the state house, like they're not going to give a crap. So
yeah, and I think that's so important, that who are you going to talk to question. My husband's traveling at the moment, and he met up with some friends who one lives in California, Silicon Valley, and the other one is sort of in an expat community in Central America. And they were both saying, it's so limited what you can talk to just your neighbors in these enclaves anymore. And it's sort of a chilling effect. And it's almost like a self-silencing and a self-censoring that you start to do, because you're just like, well, my opinions are going to upset others, or we're going to get into a fight. So I'm just not going to talk about anything that matters to me. And eventually that actually becomes quite an empty life. So one of the benefits, of course, is moving here and being like, oh my God, I can talk about guns for 4 hours straight if I want to.
That was when I first moved up here. My neighbor across the street, he was a former armorer in the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps too. And like we bonded over that immediately. Our very first discussion was just talking about, like, dude, where do you go shooting around here? It's like, oh, like right up back there. And I was like, this is amazing. Like this kind of stuff does not get tolerated in Massachusetts.
It's like, go shooting, sir. I have a backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but no, Massachusetts really is the low-hanging fruit kind of here. Like convincing someone to move from Massachusetts is one of the easier things in the world, especially if they're in northern Massachusetts and they're already like making a farther commute for work. And like moving north, like I almost feel like Vermont and Maine are hard because they keep getting better too in their own ways. Not on pace with us, but like Maine at least is approaching, at least trying to go in the right direction. And Vermont has always had its own unique view of freedom, kind of more on the lefty side, but they still leave you alone and they have a lot of guns. So it's hard to get even them to move. But Massachusetts just keeps getting worse. And worse. And they just passed a tax on millionaires. and
Good
like,
for us.
Yeah, Massachusetts is trying to do their best to drive their best people away.
Yeah, we'll take all those people.
So Tom, if you were to like target, like if I tasked you with how would we find 10 more Massachusettsans, I don't know what you call them.
No clue.
People from Massachusetts.
Bay Staters.
What?
Bay Staters. Nailed it.
Massachusetts people.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So where would you go about like recruiting people or finding people, or did you find you were really quite isolated and so that was the difference of coming here?
So I like to think of myself as like the vanguard of my friend group. So like I came here first, and it's kind of like viral. So I came here first, and like now there's lots of people, even in like not even just Massachusetts, but like I'm an online gamer, right? So I have people from across the country, like people in New York, Michigan, people in Michigan. Oh man, the poor Gretton Wood. How did anyway? Okay, sorry, getting off on a tangent there. But yeah, so like these people, like they're looking for something better. Like they experienced lockdowns, New York, lockdowns, Michigan, stuff like that. Like, so they're looking to get here. It's just like some of them they got families, kids, school. Like it's kind of just like either you wait out till the kid's old enough so that they go away to college, then you move, or you got to really convince like the kid's like, we need to move for better. Do you want to keep wearing masks in school forever? Like, is this the kind of thing you want to live, and vaccine mandates and all kind, like, cause like certain states are like scheduled so that they're going to get the, whatever the CDC recommended vaccine schedule is, and they're going to get it. Like, we don't have that here. So, and parents are going to have to make tough decisions. And I don't see this going away, like in the next 2 years, at the bare minimum. So like, if not ever. So that's like, I think that's the best way to sell, like virally through the people and like your attachments, your family, your extended circle that way. I mean, sometimes you could grab like randoms like me, like I'll just be following on Twitter. I follow you guys like on my own just through research. Actually, I think it was Phil Labonte retweeted something you guys had forever ago. And that's how I first found you guys. Cause like I'm a metalhead. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. And that's how that was the impetus of all of this, I think.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic.
Phil's great. Phil's a funny story. I actually grew up listening to Phil's music. It was All That Remains was my favorite band in high school. Yeah. And then it was like after I moved, I saw they were playing a show locally. I'm like, I'm gonna go see them. And Phil pointed me out in the pit. He's like, I know you. And like, what? Yeah. and like, oh, you're a free stater? He's like, yeah, I voted for you. I'm like, that's wild. Okay, sure. But no, I really do think Massachusetts is that low-hanging fruit we can go to. And as far as like the difficulty in finding people, like you say, viral is the best way to do it. I think there's a data-driven approach too. Like I was actually looking at some data. The Libertarian Party of Massachusetts had major party status as recently as 2018 to 2020, and they had 19,000 registered libertarians in the state of Massachusetts.
So how do we get that list? And then I will help us fundraise, and we should directly target those people. Yeah. Because genuinely, like I think I told you, Justin, but like I was at a Tom Woods event in Massachusetts, maybe, I mean, I think it was like 5-6 years ago. So it was a while ago. And typically, when we're libertarians and we roll down to Boston for some libertarian event in the big city, Reason comes out or Nick Gillespie's in town or whatever, I'll know like half the crew. That Tom Woods event, there were 200-300 people. It was standing room only. And I knew 2 people in the room. And that hardly ever happens to me. And I was like, who are all these Massachusetts libertarians? And why don't I know them is the question.
I'd like to know what's keeping them. Like if lockdowns didn't already make them move, like what's their breaking point? Like, why not? Like, are they just at the South Shore? Are they like over in the islands? Like, where are they? Like,
well, that's why we need to make a case. And, that's why I wrote a great book for them.
Yeah.
Thrive, 101 Reasons to Make Your Move.
Good plug.
Great title, by the way, Justin.
I know. Carla's been hammering the title into me for a year.
For 4 years, it was my slogan in my 2018 Senate race.
Hell yeah.
And I'm going to write another book also called Live Free or Thrive. I know how this competition stuff works.
It's currently a bestseller on Amazon. You can go get it for free for the Kindle right now, too.
That's awesome. I mean, I wish you all the success. And genuinely, we should plug it. Everyone should be writing a book. We're going to be putting together actually an author's program, I believe sometime early in December. Emily from Bardo Farm said, we're going to get all the writers together, and then we should probably just start doing our own literary festival. I think there are like 20-30 Free Stater authors. We're writing everything from Carla's crazy ecstatic pessimist level books to like really deep, thoughtful libertarian books. Justin, give us a plug, and then I want to hear Tom's run for office story.
Well, this one actually came out of an old project, so like most Free Staters are familiar with the 101 Reasons to Move to New Hampshire, which when the Free State Project was choosing the state, it was very, very impactful in that vote, sending out to all the signers a list of like, here's the 101 reasons why liberty lives in New Hampshire and why you should come to New Hampshire. It's 20 years old. It's incredibly outdated. Outdated for very good reasons, and it needed to be updated. And so I took on the project of sitting down and like, I'm going to re-update the list. And then next thing I knew, I'm like, I can't just list reasons. I have to write an explanation of to why that's the reason. Next thing I know, I have 130 pages. I'm like, well, I can't just publish this as a list. So it's a book. And Amazon lets you do a 5-day free promotion for Kindle books when you publish it up. So it's going up there for free. Today's actually the last day. But free staters managed to download it in mass and promote it in mass. And it hit #1 in the political philosophy section on Amazon. So it's the #1 bestseller.
Congratulations.
And ousting Machiavelli, of all people to oust.
The Dark Prince.
Yeah.
Released.
So starting tomorrow.
Dark Prince.
Yeah, starting tomorrow, we'll have a cost to it. So the Kindle version will be $4.99. The paperback will still be $12.99. The PDF will be available for free. I don't plan on making money off this. So Free Keen is going to host a copy of the paperback. The old 101 Reasons film is going to host a copy of the PDF. LibertyWin.org is hosting a copy of the PDF. And I gave Rebecca Robin a copy to put on the Free State Project website as well, because it's more important to get it out there than to make money off of it. And any money that is made from the sales, what I do plan on doing is funneling that right into making the movie, remaking the documentary for people who don't want to sit down and read. And then we want to get to the point.
If we could get some directors and producers who don't get pissed at me halfway through and then cut me out of the movie, I would appreciate that. You know?
Well, I didn't cut you out of the trailer. You're in the trailer as of now. So, as of now. What I do plan to do is we want to look into buying all that voter data from states like Massachusetts, so we can mail a copy to all 19,000 of those registered voters.
Nice.
Yes.
So that'll be expensive. That's a little bit more long-term of a project, though.
Now, Tom, did you, I know you said you had been following the project, but had you come up to events here, like any of the meetups, or Pork Fest, or Liberty Forum, or you just...
No, it was just kind of like Twitter creeping. I was doing a lot of that. Like, I'm a lot of like a guy who like hangs out in like even the Free State Discord. I don't interact much. I just kind of hang out there. And like, if I see a question that I know the answer to, I'll do it. But like, I tend to just kind of keep in my own group. But yeah, like, I mean, I plan on hitting them this year now that I'm here and like I'm hopefully making a difference. I can go up there and see what people really care about, see if they like to see the results that I got.
So Justin will put you on the big screen and then you tell us you just won your race, which I think is amazing because you've only been here like 2 years. You just lay it out for us.
Okay.
Like where you are, what the race looked like, which party you ran for, all of it.
So it was when I first got up here. I took about a year to get acclimated and all that stuff, moved in, settled, and all that. And, then I started looking into like the redistricting of everything, not just the congressional district was the big veto and all that stuff, but I was looking at the towns. So like Pelham used to be shared with Hudson next door, and a majority of because of the population, the majority of the reps were all from Hudson. We had 2 from here. It was Denise Smith and Herschel Nunez, who were like amazing reps. And so what I did is I saw that we now had our own district and we had 4 seats. So I was like, that's 2 empty seats right there. I was like, I can do this because I can make a difference. I looked at the timetable and I was like right under by like 6 days for the amount of time to the election for when I moved in. I was like, I can do this. I think I can do this. So I just started like reaching out to like, the local GOP. I was like the Hillsborough County and all that stuff, just sending out emails. And the first guy to contact me was actually Mark Warden. He was the very first guy to call me, and he was just like, here's all the people you need to contact. You really need to get a hold of Herschel Nunez in town because he's the guy that he's going to be your mentor. And that's exactly what I did. And then once I got a hold of Herschel, that guy, I mean, he's left the state. He's moved down to Tennessee. I love Herschel, but like he guided me like nobody's business. He got me hooked up with like some of the orgs in state. Like he got me doing the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance survey. Nice. I got their endorsement. He got me hooked up with the Americans for Prosperity people. I got their endorsement. Young Americans for Liberty got their endorsement. So it's like I ended up doing all that. And the way to win races is knock doors. That's what all 3 of them told me, and that's what I did. So I just got out there with my spreadsheet. I didn't like the apps. They weren't great. Either. I had a spreadsheet, and I'm a spreadsheet guy. I just knocked all of the leaning Republicans to get, or all the registered Republicans to get through the primary. I came in 2nd out of 6. We did have like a contested primary.
Wow.
They were all brand new reps though. So like Denise was out, Herschel was out. So we had all new reps, and I came in 2nd out of 6 for being a guy who's only been in town 2 years. I thought that was pretty good. And then, it's a solid red town. So like, I didn't really think it was going to be too hard to get through the general. So what I ended up doing like in the run up to the general is actually helping Chris Maidman over at AFP try to knock to help like, Gary Daniels up in Merrimack and Lou Gargiulo out in the Seacoast. So I was trying to help those guys.
Did Lou get through? I didn't check.
No, he didn't make it. Neither of them made it. I'm surprised Gary didn't but it is what it is. Like there's a lot of disappointments coming out of last Tuesday.
Look how graciously I can handle losing my mistake.
Yeah. I was watching a lot of races. Yours was one. It would have been nice.
You mentioned how Hudson and Pelham broke up, and so you had those empty seats, and it was really dominated by Hudson beforehand. But I remember the old district, Hillsborough 37, and it's a weird one and a unique one where it used to be the largest district in the state with 11 state reps all elected at once. But it was also usually reliably 11 A-rated NHLA Liberty reps every single time.
Yeah. There was great representation down here. I was super stoked. Like when I came in, that was one of the first things I did. It was like I was trying to figure out I didn't know about Liberty Alliance or any of that stuff until like I got it with Herschel. Then once he told me, I looked him up and I was like, holy crap, the old district was killing it. And he was like, yeah, no joke.
So when you were knocking doors, like what were you hearing?
It depended on the time, right? So like it was an early summer. We was it in the late spring, there was the mass shootings, right? So like even the moderate Republicans were kind of looking for red flag law stuff. And like what I don't want to do is like argue at the door, right? But like all I basically did was like kind of outline like bad cases where that like went wrong. Like there was that guy in New York where like the state police showed up and he barricaded himself in the house and all that stuff. And that almost like turned real nasty. And it's just like, and all that was, I think it was just like an angry neighbor. I don't know all the details about these things, but it's just like at the time, like I was just like, so that was that. And then the Dobbs decision came down. So then it was a lot of abortion stuff. And like, I know that's like, we probably could have seen it coming,
as they like to say.
Yeah. And in my town too, because it was like, there's a lot of people in my town that are like, they want day zero bans. Like they're hardcore, like pro-life. And like, I know this is like it's a touchy subject no matter what. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I think we're seeing the repercussions of not talking about it. So like, I'm even another thing where it's like, well, you don't want to argue at the door about this. Like this is it's all about the economy, which isn't wrong. It's all about the economy. And that's what I thought we were supposed to be the messaging. Right. But come to find out, we probably should have at least said that, like, we're not, like, nobody banned it. It's not like banned up here. And that's where the Democrats, I think, got us.
And I think the problem is nobody talked about that. Nobody talked about how you didn't ban it. Like New Hampshire's reasonable, one of the least restrictive states in the country after Planned Parenthood versus Casey. But everyone went to the ballot box, and the only Republican they heard talking about it was Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
I mean, I did also see, I did talk about there not being a ban, but I'm also pro-life. So then it gets, really murky because people only hear what they want to hear. I'm like, hey, I'm pro-life, but I also believe in self-ownership. So reasonable people disagree. So I don't believe I can force you to do something against your will, much like I expect you not to force me to do something against mine. But, it got really dirty in that race, I've got to say. And I think you're entirely right. One is there hasn't really been a conversation about this in such a long time that no one's having a rational discourse about it. But then I was surprised. I was driving around and I saw someone had put out bulldog signs that actually said, would vote for national ban. Like they were going hard with like actual physical signs.
Yeah.
Justin, you look amused.
And it was just straight up lies. Like he never, like, as far as I remember, I watched, like, I think almost every debate. Like, I was the Fenton guy early. Like was my guy.
I think a lot of us were.
Yeah, I would assume. But like that was my guy. I don't want to speak ill of any of the other people, but it's just, I don't know what'll end up happening if I speak bad about certain people. But anyway,
So do you have like passion projects, legislation you're thinking about, things you're really like, oh, I want to drive this? Like, I know when I was thinking about, didn't work, but when I was like, oh, when I win this time, what committee do I want to serve on? And I was actually specifically thinking, I'd be really good on criminal justice, but then I was like, oh, I don't want that. I think I want energy so I can learn something new and get us a reactor built.
Yeah.
So tell me more about yours.
Yep. Like same deal. The exact same reactor. Like I put as my so I think I had a misinterpretation of what the different roles of the committees were early on. My original was state and federal relations because like I want at the time there was like OSHA mandates
And you
potentially
are a
coming.
nerd.
Yeah. So it's like I wanted nullification, right? So like that's basic. I don't want the feds coming in and stomping on us in any respect. Like I don't even care if it's something like nobody likes child trafficking, right? But I still don't want like the FBI coming in and like we can handle it. We can do it. I think we can handle it, right? And
Yeah.
Because anytime the federal money gets attached to things, there's more strings, and it's always the case. But it's like, so aside from the nullification, I'm right there with you. Like, I would love to see Seabrook get expanded. If I end up on the science and tech, I think I'm right there. Like, I'm a software engineer by trade. So I'm a crypto enthusiast. I'm assuming that may be a finance thing, but there's a technological component to it. Right.
And if you haven't met Keith Ammon yet, we should definitely connect you with him. He's fantastic and a really good, like crypto. He was one of the people who got some early crypto stuff in. And I do think that is an issue that we should aggressively be working on. It could be part of the story. And, as I've talked over the years of what we're trying to build, right? Like if we can build out a Silicon milliard, right?
Yep.
So we, our skyscrapers are horizontal. They're not like that. They're like that, right? But if you put them all like that, we would be like a decent little city.
Yeah. And I would love to encourage that kind of stuff up here for sure. And
and honestly, whenever I like sketch the picture in my head, I'm like, oh, and we're going to have a hyperloop from Concord to Portsmouth, and that whole 101 corridor should be high rises, but just there because I really like the nature too.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to figure all of it out with private.
It's gonna be like the line in Saudi Arabia, the 100-mile long city.
the city that just stretches to the horizon on a straight line. Yeah.
Honestly, I was just watching. Okay, this is like too oversharing nerd information, but I was watching a documentary on FIFA because why not know everything you need to know about a sport you don't really watch? But they had this. So part of the story is the corruption that happened with Qatar when they won like the thing, right? And that's sort of where it all came out. But they showed a shot of the skyline, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I had no idea it looked like that. And I literally stopped and took a photo of the screen because I was like, that's what Manchester should look like in 20 years time. Like we shouldn't be excited if we see one crane every 10 years. I want a skyline with like 40 cranes with high rises and beautiful buildings and cool bridges and all of it. And that stuff comes from capitalism, from free markets, from free people, and from innovation and a growth mindset. And that's what we're trying to build.
Absolutely.
I saw a story, just perusing YouTube, stumbled on it, looked into it, about a billionaire who's trying to pitch building a private socialist city out in the desert. And their plans, the place looks beautiful, all the artist renderings and the architecture, everything looks beautiful and everything. And then they're like, how are we going to make it work with everything? And it's like, well, we'll use all renewable energy, solar and wind and all this kind of stuff. And it's been stalled hardcore because they can't get anyone willing to sign up for it because no one was willing to commit to move, even though they're offering free healthcare for residents, universal jobs and everything. But because like they have a voting system, but then it's all still privately owned and you have to pay taxes. You can't own land, but you can build whatever you want. No one wants you on the land, but that's going to increase your taxes that you pay on the property tax every there. And like their scheme, it just, every time they try and answer a question, it breaks down the scheme even further.
Yeah. If you think too hard, the whole thing falls apart.
And somebody pointed out that they'll never be able to get enough water for 5 million people into the city without nuclear power.
Oh God. Oh, and I imagine they're opposed to that as well.
Right.
It's not good enough green energy. It's not their specific brand they support.
Although I do feel like that is starting to shift. I think there is a movement towards more green energy. So, hopefully you get the committee you want. I'd be excited. I don't know if this is in your bailiwick, but I really want to see us do some, a therapeutic drug widening, either recreation and homegrown, but definitely maybe mushrooms and some of the PTSD medicines to help veterans. Like, I think we should just look at this opportunity and be like, I mean, I know they hate us, but how can we work with the lefties on a bunch of things that we could get through now?
I think there's a really unique opportunity this year with such a slim majority, with the House being almost tied. It kind of gives the 50 Free Staters and Libertarians in the House the real ultimate power to be
yes, we are the wedge.
Whereas like previously, it was like you needed the whole Republican Party behind the Free Staters to get something passed because the Democrats didn't have enough weight. But if you can get just most of the Democrats behind further decrim or more legalization bills and get the Libertarians on board, that's a veto-proof majority.
Yeah.
So if we design a app where legislators, regardless if they're Free Staters, it's a voluntary app that people can just use on top of when you're voting with your buttons and, you know, you're ITLing and you don't know if you're voting for the motion or against the motion, or the second thing where they change the, you know,
no one
like,
ITL.
I don't know, just press the button. What's the guy next to me doing? If we create, and I really do want to create this, a voluntary app that we start as Free Staters where we record our votes. It's one of the things we do. We believe in open and transparent government. We think there's a duty to your constituents to let them know what you're doing. Would you use something like that?
Yeah. You mean turn every single vote into a roll call? Like
yes, but voluntarily and not wasting the time in session, but just having people do it themselves. And then people will start to go, hey, those are the people I want to vote for because at least I know what they're about.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I was going to do that anyway, because like I got my own little blog and I want to track like all the stuff that I've done.
All right. Since I didn't win, do you want to wear a GoPro every day?
A GoPro. Well, I mean,
well, I'm excited for you. You get some great legislative priorities. Looking forward to seeing your work as a freshman. We know a lot of people go in their first year and just kind of get like timid and just trying to learn the ropes, jump right in, go feet first, just take the bull by the horn and just like make yourself known. Melissa Blazek did that last term. Like she went in as a freshman and just was so loud no one could ignore her, and she ended up as assistant House Majority Leader. So you can make waves if you want to make waves. Do it. There is one chat. We want to appease the nerds in the chat. They have one question here, noticing your wall behind you. They want to know what the most libertarian color in Magic the Gathering is.
Probably the Rakdos ones. The Rakdos color pair, probably black more than red, but there's some, you know, the red's all about freedom, right? So red is the freedom, self-expression and stuff like that. But black's kind of like embracing, you know, entrepreneurship, stuff like that. So it's, sorry, not to get too deep into it, but it's definitely red black.
You might have been an enemy for life with AJ by not saying mono red, but we'll go.
I think there has to be something to be said, but for the greed component where you need that drive and that's something to accomplish. Sometimes red's chaos. I'm not necessarily, you want focus.
All right. Well, Carla, anything else you want to add before we sign off for the night?
No, if you're not following me on Twitter, do it. Follow me on Insta. My Insta is going to be, I'm going to plead the fifth when the time comes and introduce my Instagram as my defense. So definitely go look at all the memes I post there. And I was really glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Nice. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends. If you want to learn more about what we're doing here in New Hampshire, always go check out fsp.org. Learn more about the mission, the organization, and the great people like Tom who are making a difference here on the ground. If you're not here, plan your visit. You can get in touch with Chris Lopez. She's in the chat. She's on the other end of that website, and she'll make sure you can get a visit planned tailored to what you want to see in the state, so you can meet all your future neighbors ahead of time. And while you're here, when you're visiting, make sure you check out fsp.org/calendar for the most jam-packed Liberty calendar in the world. There's more events than you could ever possibly get to. So don't worry, you'll never be lacking for things to do. And if you want to support the mission and what's going on, fsp.org/give, where you can set up recurring monthly donations or one-time contributions. And remember, the Free State Project is a 501c3 charitable nonprofit. So all of those contributions are tax deductible, so you get to decide where they go instead of Uncle Sam. So until next time, everybody, thanks for tuning in and be free.
Yeah. I don't believe in destiny, I just do what's best for me. Don't listen to my enemies, they're just full of jealousy. Yeah, this legacy. You gon' see what's left of me. You gon' see success in me. You ain't seen the rest of me. I just wanna be the best at what I know. Better than the rest, just watch me grow. Put me to the test and watch me go. This is my quest, I'ma make it known. They call me obsessive, oh I know. Call me selective with my notes. Call me aggressive with my flow. Call me offensive even though Joe, I ain't gonna lie.